Welcome back, Prospect Live viewers. We're back with another 2020 MLB Draft player breakdown. Today, we got Nick Loftin, shortstop out of Baylor, joining me, of course, courtesy of perfectgame.org, PG's National Scouting Supervisor, Brian Sikowski. Brian, Nick Loftin, probably the top college shortstop in this year's class. I don't think that's saying a whole lot, though, necessarily. But Loftin is a really talented player, great player all around, right across the board. He can run, he can field, probably play multiple spots in the dirt long term. He's definitely a flexible player, played some outfield with Team USA as well. He's a gap-to-gap guy, not a ton of power, but I know we talked about it, pre-broadcast. This is a guy that can turn on one in the inner part of the plate and really display some mammoth power at times to his pull side. So talk to me a little bit about Nick Loftin. I know you caught a bit of him, I think, at Shriners earlier this season.
Yeah. He's we talk about the college shortstop class, and I think there are guys who have higher upside than Nick Loftin. Like Jordan Westberg comes to mind, just as a guy loaded with tools whose ultimate upside may be higher than Loftin's. But Loftin may be the safest guy in the class. We talked about that with Daniel Cabrera, but Loftin's got that kind of this dude's going to play in the major leagues and probably play well. But is he in that high roll 4 range, or is he a medium roll 5 who plays every day? That's kind of the discrepancy in what we're seeing. But it's a guy who's got all 5 tools, just none of them are really plus. He's a solid defender. The instincts are good. The arm's a 55. His best speed is a 55 dig, but he's truthfully an average runner. And he can hit. I think there's the simplicity of the approach and the way that he just sprays barrels around. It speaks to a high contact approach, a high sort of on base approach along with the hit tool. But like you said in the intro, there's times when you kind of forget and you're kind of falling asleep, and then all of a sudden he gets a fastball in the inner third and hits it out of Minute Maid in Houston, like I saw him do earlier this year. And You're kind of sitting there scratching your chin and going, okay, well, that's certainly not insubstantial raw power. That baseball went a long way. What can we do, if anything, to maybe bring that more into his game? What can we do to maybe think about him as a 15 to 20 homer guy as opposed to a 10 to 15 or a 10 to 12 type of guy? And all of a sudden, then you start talking about the discrepancy in the profile. Then we start talking about a guy who, instead of being a really, really good bench player or like a solid starter, is maybe a really good starter or something like that. So I don't know exactly where he's going to go. I think his range is substantial. A team could fall in love with him early. But yeah, I mean, I think it's anywhere from 20 to 40 maybe with Loftin as far as where he's going to go.
Yeah, and I think some of the teams that are in that range too, could potentially fit him. I know you folks over at Perfect Game, I think you and Vinny had actually mocked him out at 24 to the Rays, and it's almost a perfect fit there, just in terms of a team that loves versatility, guys that are sort of his bag of tools. And he's relatively close to the majors, and he's one of these guys that could play outfield, infield. Kind of fits that Rays mantra a lot, where I almost wonder if they could get the most out of him just based upon his power and stuff. So yeah, he's definitely one of the more interesting college players, just because he shows glimpses here and there, but overall he's kind of a really safe foundational sort of player. Trying to think of other questions here, because we already sort of covered where he's going to go in the draft, what we sort of think about him. So let's just wrap this sucker up. That was Nick Loftin, Baylor shortstop. We'll be back with a really, really exciting one. Right-hander Jared Kelly. Thanks for tuning in.